The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Blockx Fantasy. They're coming to customers, play just $5, get $75 in bonus funds. Use promo code SGPN. And welcome everyone to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. Currently Saturday night, December 20th, around 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm your host, always Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the final episode of the Next Gen Finals, as we're going to break down the title match between Blockx and Tien taking place on Sunday. Before we get into the actual breakdown of that match and the recap of what happened in the last episode, a reminder, support the show by liking and subscribing on YouTube. And a reminder, you can also find the podcast on audio format only with Spotify or Apple. So like, subscribe on YouTube, leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple to help the show grow. Plus, a reminder, you can check out the merch store. A lot of great tennis merchandise that we have on the SGPN merch store. We have shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, different colors, a lot of options for you. Very affordable. Think you'll like it? Check out the different options that we have if you want to support the show. Plus, a reminder that we also have an SGPN app free to download. So if you do like all of the podcasts on SGPN and you like all the picks, a reminder, you can get all the picks and podcasts in one easy location instead of going to Spotify or Apple or YouTube for individual shows. Find all of the podcasts in one easy location, absolutely free. Go to the SGPN app store. Once again, type in SGPN to get access to all of our picks and podcasts. So moving on into the recap of what happened in the Next Gen semis. So overall, our lock and dog picks were fine. Did win the lock. We did lose the dog. For the lock, we had a nice win. We had Basaveretti team total under 11.5 against Tien at -125. Tien owns him historically, and we thought Tien would look sharp over the course of the 3 or potentially 4 sets, and he did, as he ended up winning comfortably in straight sets. We left the door open for Basaveretti to win a set and still lose in 4 to cover this team total under. Really never in doubt. Tien killed him in the first 2 sets. Final set went to a breaker. Tien jumped on him early and was able to coast. So really never a doubt there for the lock. Nice and easy winner. For the dog, ended up picking up a loss. We ran back the Blockx play. We had Blockx money line with the over 23.5 games. Blockx did win. Unfortunately, he did win in straight sets as the match went under. A bit annoying as the first 2 sets went to tie breaks, and there was a 10-8 scoreline in the second set breaker. Thought it would be close. It was. Unfortunately, Blockx won each individual close set, and he ended up winning while the match went under. But in theory, if Budkov did sneak away with one of the 2 tie breaks, match is probably going over, and we would have ended up sweeping. But either way, picked up a loss for the dog. Nice win for the lock, and we'll try to sweep the final. Now, for the recap of the semis, quite underwhelming, because after seeing a lot of drama unfold in the group stage, we were hoping for at least one marathon, and instead we got 0. You saw 2 straight set wins by the favorite, so really no drama at all. Once again, the Blockx-Budkov first 2 sets were close. They each went to tie breaks, but Blockx has won every single match in this event. He's undefeated, he looks great, and he was able to win in straight sets. And as for Tien, we thought he'd look good against Basaveretti, undefeated against them lifetime. That continues as Tien was able to win in straight sets. So really not too much drama at all. Basaveretti seemed to be a bit compromised during the course of the match. He wasn't moving too well. I believe I saw him with a brace on, I want to say, his ankle. So he was a bit banged up. I don't think it would have mattered either way. But you could tell that as the match unfolded and the rallies got longer, Tien was just in control. And it felt like Basaveretti really never threatened at any point over the course of the match. But either way, we ended up getting relative chalk as we got the 2 decent favorites winning. And now we have Blockx taking on Tien in the final on Sunday. Now, as a reminder, for the outrights, we already have action on the final because we gave out Tien to win the match, or to win the event, at around +110. So we already have action, and Tien is a favorite. I'll mention the odds in a second. But we, knock on wood, have a chance to win everything because we gave out Tien to win the green group. He did expensive price, -225, but he did end up winning it at the end. And for the red group, we had Blockx to win at 2-1. So we won both of those. And then for the outrights, we still have Tien at plus 110. So we'll see what happens. But either way, point is a good outcome for us for the sake of having Tien make it out of the group stage. He almost lost immediately, then ended up surviving, won the group, and then eventually did win in a pretty convincing fashion in the semis. But either way, it's been a pretty interesting tournament. It always is when it's first to four in each set. But we have a pretty good final, a rematch actually, of a couple of junior finals that we ended up seeing in the past. But either way, a point is Tien and Block should be a pretty fun match. We're going to talk about in a few minutes. Before we get into that actual breakdown, though, briefly looking at the actual news going on in tennis. And the one storyline worth talking about is the fact, well, there's really two. You have one, which is Wawrinka, who officially announced that he's going to retire at the end of the season. Not a surprise. He's been mostly a challenger player for the last year or two. We know he's been well past his prime for a while. Bunch of knee injuries over the years. Of course, he's a future Hall of Famer, one of the best backhands of all time. It's going to be upsetting when he ends up retiring, but I think we'd all agree he had a very long career, and at the end of the day, it wasn't a sudden thing where, for example, Thiem's career fell off a cliff immediately because he kept getting hurt. Wawrinka just got old, and he decided to keep playing, but I think we'd all agree that the best years are behind Wawrinka. Obviously, it's kind of like Andy Murray, who eventually decided to retire at the end after looking pretty awful on the ATP Tour for about a year or so. Same thing here. I love Wawrinka as a player, but it's time. I think we all know it's time, and he's going to retire at the end of his farewell tour throughout the course of this year. Besides that, though, the main storyline involving the players in the top five, Alcaraz decided it was time to switch coaches. He decided to end his pairing with Juan Carlos Ferrero. Very weird decision because they've been together for 7 years and they won 6 Grand Slam titles. And I don't really know what prompted the, I'd say, separation between the two of them, but that was the main shocking news bulletin over the last few days. Alcaraz decided it was time to switch coaches, and we'll see what happens moving forward. I do not believe he's announced who's going to replace Ferrero, so we're going to see what happens. He might keep the same actual team, just replace the main guy who's going to be the coach. But either way, very successful partnership. Ferrero did get Alcaraz to the mountaintop, won multiple Grand Slams, and now it is over, which is very, very unexpected. I think most people expected them to be together for a while, and we'll see what happens. But that was the main shocking news bulletin, which was Ferrero no longer being the coach of Alcaraz. Besides that, though, that's going to wrap it up for the brief news, I'd say, deep dive. Before we get into the preview of the Next Gen final match, a reminder that we are brought to you by our sponsor, which is Kalshi. So if you want to check out real money prediction markets that are legal in all 50 states, check out Kalshi. You can check out a bunch of different markets in sports, the NFL, college football, tennis, college basketball, NBA, NHL, and more. Plus, you can also do props like first touchdowns, and they also have a lot of other options besides sports like politics, entertainment, and even weather. And a reminder that we have a nice deal with Kalshi when you sign up. So if you are new to the actual platform, get $20 if you use the code SGPN when you sign up. That's Kalshi, Kalshi, code SGPN for a free $20 at sign up. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. So if you like pick 'em entries, chance to win 5,000 times your entry, they have you covered for this holiday season with Underdog Unwrapped. Unwrapped tons of promos and gifts all throughout the holidays. And a reminder, they have a new offer for customers. Play just $5, get $75 in bonus funds when you sign up with the promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the recap of the semis in the Next Gen Finals. Time to move on into the title match, which is going to be a fun one between Tien and Blockx. Now, Blockx is undefeated in the event. He won every group stage match, and he won the semifinal matchup in straight sets. However, he is still an underdog in this match. Tien's about minus 158. Blockx is around plus 138. For the game spread, minus 1.5 for Tien, plus 1.5 for Blockx, and the over-under total games is at 24 and a half. And I mentioned before, they faced off before, but technically not on an ATP environment. They faced off actually before being professionals. They faced off a couple of times in juniors. They faced off in 2023 in the Aussie Open final, and they faced off in the French Open that same year in 2023. The Australian Open final was an epic, as Blockx did win 7-6 in the final set. So it was an epic, went to a deciding set, and you saw Blockx survive barely by the minimum, as I believe he won 11-9 in the third set tiebreak. However, faced off in the French Open after that. Blockx got injured after one set and had to retire. So even though that was in juniors, a reminder, both guys are still very young. It's why they are in the next-gen finals. It was only about 2 years ago. So it's not an insanely long time ago, but still we know both players have gotten better since then. But the only hard-court meeting was in the Aussie Open final in the juniors level, and Blockx did win outright in a final set tiebreak. Now, for the actual path of both players, we know Blockx has had a much easier go of it so far, as he has been coasting. He ended up winning every match, 4-0. He has not gone to a fifth set yet, so once again, he has been very comfortable. The serve has been incredible. It's been the biggest weapon of anybody on the entire, I'd say, stage for this event, and Blockx' serve might be the main factor of this actual match. If he serves well and it can neutralize the Tien return game, he should win. But we know Tien is a good rallier and is going to try to prolong the points. But Blockx' serve has jumped off the page as the biggest weapon in the entire field, and it's why he's currently undefeated in the title match. As for Tien, he ended up losing a marathon to Jeddah in a match he should have won, but still punted it in 5. Beat Landalucci, beat Budkov, and beat Basaveretti. I think it's safe to say that Tien has gotten progressively more comfortable as the as the event has progressed. He did drop the first set to Landalucci, and then after that, he has only dropped one set since. So he won the last 3 sets against Landalucci, 1 in 4 against Budkov, and then ended up burying Basaveretti in straight sets. So Tien was the pre-tournament favorite, got off to a shaky start. Since then, he's been rolling, and now Tien is favored to beat the undefeated guy at a decent price as well, minus 158. Now, for the actual matchup in itself, do I think Tien should be favored? Yes. I think that Tien, who's proven as he's won a regular ATP title before, he's further along in his career development compared to Blockx. But you could also argue the court speeds benefit Blockx because the serving isn't a massive, I'd say, differential between the two of them. Blockx has a very solid serve. Tien does not, so Blockx can find enough holds. Eventually, Tien will leave the door open for breakpoint chances, and that can be enough for Blockx to hypothetically steal the match. Now, I do think it's going to be a close match either way. I think the line should be closer than it actually is. I think Tien should be favored, but I think 158 does feel pretty expensive. Basaveretti, we know, is a guy that's just a very good matchup for Tien because they're similar stylistically, and Tien's better at rallying. Plus, Basaveretti did get injured and was kind of moving at a compromised, I'd say, speed around the court. So based on that, I think Tien had a pretty solid gift for his match in the semis. He played well, don't get me wrong, but I do think Blockx will present a unique challenge, which is his serve, and I do think he's undefeated for a reason. I think Blockx is alive to win it. Will I pick him to win? No. I think Tien's going to find a way to survive, and I think it's going to be a marathon either way. I think unlike the semis, we end up seeing a marathon. I think it goes 4 or 5. I think it will be very close for the actual match breakdown, but I do think Tien will find a way to just outlast Blockx and win in my opinion, 5. So I have a very, very close match that could go either way. I am going to pick, once again, Tien to win. I think that he is the, in my opinion, more proven player, but Blockx has been really good. I'm not going to ignore his showing so far in the event, but I also do think with a chip on Tien's shoulder, a reminder he did lose in the final here last year to Fonseca. So the fact is he's been here before, and now he has a chance to finish what he could not finish last year. He had some quotes after he ended up making it back to the final. He said, quote, "I won the first and had chances in the second before he ran away with it. I will try not to let that happen tomorrow. I know Alex has been playing great this week. I'm excited." So Tien, once again, a bit of unfinished business here after losing to Fonseca in the exact same spot last year. I like the experience angle. I like the fact that Tien, who was the pre-tournament favorite, after struggling early in the first 6 sets of the event, has been rolling ever since. So I'll go with Tien in 5. I think it will be close, but I like the quotes from Tien. He knows that Blockx is playing well. He's not overlooking the opposition here, and he knows he had some chances to beat Fonseca last year before it fell apart for him. I think he'll respond well. I think Tien will win, but it will not be easy either way. I see a war. If it went to a 5th set tie break, I would not be shocked either, but I see a war that I think Tien eventually wins in 5. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the breakdown of the final. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the lock and dog, reminder, brought to you by our sponsor, which is Novig. So if you like prediction markets, check out Novig, rated number 1 in America for sports prediction markets. Check out some great prices at Novig. So once again, a lot of reduced juice available if you compare their lines to sportsbooks. It's a lot of value to be found on Novig. And a reminder, download the app. When you do so, get a nice sign-up deal with us. Get $50 when you spend just $5 if you use our code SGPN at sign-up. Get on the action with Novig, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. They've been great this season in the NFL. And a reminder, you can also check them out for college basketball. They also have models you can build yourself, copy from the leaderboard, or you could use the house model as well. So once again, if you want to check out the possibilities with models in sports betting, recommend using Rhythm, a very simple introduction to models which you might be a fan of, so give it a shot. But a reminder, if you want to check out Rhythm, we have a nice discount code for you. Use the code SPN25 when you download the app, and you'll get a nice 25% off your first month. That's Rhythm, RITHMM, promo code SPN25 for 25% off your first month at Rhythm. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the recap of the semis and the preview of the final. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I'm going to go with the over 24.5 games here at -101. Blockx and Tien have been very good in the event. Blockx is a dog in this match, despite being undefeated in the 4 matches he's played so far. I see it being very close. They faced off one time on hardcourt before, said it was in the Aussie Open finals in juniors about 2 years ago. That was a war, went to a final set tiebreak. It was very, very close, and I can see a similar script unfolding here in the final on Sunday. But both guys have seen a bunch of tiebreaks lately. There's been at least one tiebreak in 5 straight Blockx matches, and there's been at least one tiebreak in 5 straight Tien matches. So even though it's an abbreviated set format, 1st to 4, we have seen each of these players have at least one tiebreaker individually in every match of this event. So based on that, I think you'll get at least one 4-3. I think you might get a couple in there, but I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to go 4 or 5 sets. In theory, you can get the over 24.5 games with one tiebreak and a 4-setter if you end up getting some 4-2s in there. But I see it being close. I don't really see many lopsided sets in this one. I think it's going to be close. I think it will go down to the wire. If it goes 5, then in general, we're in really good shape. But it is possible to get there in 4. But give me a close matchup that I think will end up resulting in a bunch of close sets. Give me the over 24.5 as my lock for the show. For the dog, I'm going to go with a player prop, courtesy of Bet365. I'm going to go with Blockx to record a break in the first set at +125. Main reason, Tien has really not been great serving early in these matches. He's been broken in the first set in 3 of his last 4 matches. So based on that, Tien, we've seen get off to some slow starts. Even with him beating Bassivaretti in straight sets in the semis, he did get broken in the first set. So Tien has been a bit of a slow starter when it comes to serving. Blockx has not been an amazing returner over the course of the event, but I think he's good enough to find a break in the first set. And +125 against Tien, who once again has been getting broken constantly in the first set of this event. I think it's a great price at +125. Plus, in the head-to-head meeting on hard court, Blockx did win the first set 6-1. He broke Tien's serve 3 times in the first set. So I do think Blockx can find a break. A reminder, there are no deuces, so a 40-40 is still a break point technically. I think Blockx can find a way to get a break. It's mainly being skeptical of Tien's serving prowess early in the matches. He has not been very good at serving in the first sets of the event so far, but I do think Blockx can do enough, get enough returns in play to create an opening or two, and that's enough for me to find value at plus 125. Give me Blockx to get a break in the first set at plus 125 as my dog for the show. So once again, the lock and dog for the next gen finals, the lock's going to be on Blockx and Tien over 24.5 games at minus 101. For the dog, give me Blockx first set over half a break of serve at plus 125. It's going to wrap it up for the show. Now, we have a bit of a layoff before the next episode. A reminder that we have about 10 days off, give or take, before the start of Brisbane and Hong Kong. We're not going to do an episode on the United Cup, so don't look for that. But you see Brisbane and Hong Kong starting on December 30th. We'll be back in about a week or so. So keep an eye out for that. But once again, a bit more of a layoff as we have a couple of events coming up in about 10 days. Till next time, find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Support the show on YouTube at the Tennis Gambling Podcast, SGPN, Tennis Gambling Podcast, either way. Also find it on Spotify or Apple. So like, subscribe on YouTube, leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.